Welcome everyone to the Blue Numbers in a Changing World panel. I would like to start to thank Peter HEFFERNAN, NIKOLIAN, CONCEIÇÃO SANTOS, CRISTINA RAMOS, and Jennifer ZHUANG. I will elaborate a little bit more their experience and curriculums, but first I would like to ask Peter HEFFERNAN that has an enormous curriculum. Thank you, Peter, for having the time to be here with us. We could speak about the fantastic job you did at the Marine Institute, but we would like also to underline your critical action in which relates to the creating a bridge in between European Union and North America and Canada in many aspects of this strong relationship. And also as an Irishman, the way you put the ocean in the agenda of Ireland. So Peter, the stage is yours, and we would like to know what is this of Mission Starfish? What is the main message of it?
Thank you, Miguel, and bom dia, and greetings to all the fellow panelists and those of you online. It is a great pleasure to be here today and to speak about the Mission Starfish report. And to put it in context, a few years ago, the European Commission and Union decided that for this decade and the next major scientific programming of the European Union, they would explore the possibility of launching 5 major missions. And one of those 5 was chosen to be on the areas of oceans and waters, seas and coastal and inland waters. So the fact that the ocean area and water, the hydrosphere, were chosen to be one of 5 major missions, I think was a tremendous signal of advancement for the issues of oceans. To me, oceans and climate are immediately interlinked, indivisibly interlinked, and the very survival of human life on Earth is tremendously dependent on the health and well-being of the ocean systems. For 97% of all of the water on this planet is contained in the oceans, but it is not very well understood by mankind that the entire water system between the oceans, the atmosphere, rivers, lakes, groundwater is incredibly interlinked. It's one hydrosphere system. So what happens in any one part of it, it impacts elsewhere in the world. So I was privileged to have the opportunity to work with the distinguished board led by Monsieur Pascal Lamy over the course of the last 18 to 20 months and submit a report which is at a late stage of consideration by the European Commission, hopefully to see such a mission launched. And to very briefly outline, it's called Mission Starfish because it really outlines 5 major areas of activity, all of whom are completely interlinked, just as the arms of a starfish are linked to the one being. 3 of those are critical to the healthy system staying healthy and being restored, and they are a zero pollution ambition. And the title, I should say, of Starfish Mission is to restore our oceans and waters by 2030. It is absolutely a moonshot. It is transformative in its ambition and scale. This is not business as usual in any manner of speaking. So the ambition levels are very, very high because the challenge is existential and the challenge is huge. But it is a challenge that can be overcome, one, by multilateral players and interaction. So the 5 key arms, very briefly, are a zero pollution ambition by 2030, and an ambition to regenerate our marine and freshwater ecosystems by 2030, an ambition to decarbonize our ocean, our blue economy by 2030, and to underpin the achievement of those 3 major planks are a hugely ambitious program of scientific endeavor, generating the knowledge, bridging the knowledge gap, and also bridging the emotional gap amongst people and citizens from all member states of the European Union. But indeed, you could translate that to a message worldwide, that we need to bridge that emotional disconnect. I was speaking to the International Hydrographic Organization centenary celebrations yesterday, and I was saying to hydrographers, you have the ability to visualize what human eyes cannot see, because 70% of our planet is underwater, and human eyes cannot see that or feel it or make it tangible. It is essential that both emotionally, culturally, and personally, we can create a connection between the reality of how important the ocean is to the health of you and I and every other citizen and all our children and grandchildren in the decades to come. And the final element is revamping ocean governance, to take on very seriously, and for Europe to provide a lead in a global context to plug the gaps that are there in ocean governance in areas beyond national jurisdiction to underpin the achievement of these major ambitions. So put very simply, Mission Starfish has recommended to the European Commission the restoration of our oceans and waters by 2030 through the implementation of a hugely ambitious program of integrated and interlinked activities over 5 major fields of activity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter, for this first introduction to this panel. And I forgot to say also thank you for helping Portugal as a member of, I would say, the Fundação Oceano Azul family, let's say this way. Jumping for the other panels, I would also like to thank and congratulate, because, you know, for a while, for about 20 years, I'm dealing with numbers and reports on oceans. And 20 years ago, there was a huge lack of information. But nowadays, we have strong, powerful reports. So this is an achievement. And we have here the main actors that made it possible. All of the 4 panelists we have here, Francisco, CONCEIÇÃO, Cristina, and Jennifer, played and are playing a role in really changing the landscape of the numbers. And of course, numbers have their importance, but without them, we cannot see it, everything is falling. And the aim of this panel is how to create this bridging between what Peter said in terms of this changing of Mission Starfish, but not only, because the US also has strong programs in this field, how this will change the future numbers. But let us congratulate a little bit the past success, and I would ask Francesco to share with us what has been the experience. I think it is the 4th or 5th report you already produced in terms of blue numbers for Europe. Please, for the people that are hearing us for the first time, can you just, in a very summarized way, explain the journey that your department, DG Mare, is progressing?
Absolutely. Many thanks. Before doing that, colleagues, I would like just to underpin and underline and fully agree with what Peter said. We are in a period of completely changing minds and way of doing things. It's not business as usual. I just want to say that, and this is will become more visible, and you might have seen it, because I would like also to have a word about the overall policy, overarching, I would say, policy framework under which we are operating, and this is the European Green Deal. Peter has mentioned the mission Oceans under the Europe for the research, but the European Green Deal and the recovery plan, which is now in place, it will define the European economy for many years or even decades. So this strategy, this European Green Deal, calls for a transformation of our economy in order to become a modern, resource efficient and competitive economy, where the net emissions of greenhouse gases are phased out, and the EU natural capital is protected. So this is, I would say, the policy context, and we have also the funds which are coming to support these objectives and these strategies. Is the recovery plan for Europe in order to boost the green and digital transition and make Europe's economy fairer, more resilient, and more sustainable for future generation. And in this particular context, I will say the blue economy should, and it can play a major role in this transformation. We will need the ocean for renewable energy, for sustainable food, for the ecosystem services they can provide. So fostering the green potential of the blue economy can also play a part in mitigating the economic impacts which we are seeing and will see in the future caused by the crisis. And this should lead to new growth opportunities and new jobs. So actually, very, very rapidly, and in order to achieve all these objectives, policy objectives, we need data, evidence, and analysis. As you said, this is the 4th edition of the yearly Blue Economy Report. We hope it provides a comprehensive overview of the sector and its achievements. I mean, this is a foundation. This is a solid foundation for both policymakers and stakeholders, in particular when they are deciding and when they are trying to make informed decisions. Our journey for this report, it was not an easy one. We started 4 years ago with not so much data, and 4 years after, we can say we are quite satisfied regarding the, if I can call them, the traditional sectors. But still, we are observing, and I suppose my colleagues from US and CONCEIÇÃO from Portugal will say that for the emerging sectors, we are still lacking data. And this is because, you know, there are private data out there which we cannot assess because they're belonging to private entities. We don't have the budget and the funds to start, you know, paying for this data, to get this data. There are also a lot of confidentiality issues, which is something which we need to see how we can overcome. In particular, because under the emerging sectors we have very niche sectors, and you know, we can easily identify. I would say the business intelligence, which is under this niche sector. So there are still problems, but I believe in the last 4 years we have made a tremendous progress regarding the blue economy. We are also in very close cooperation with our colleagues from Ireland, and we are following their work, and our colleagues in Portugal following their work on data collection. We are also facing a lot of problems on methodologies, in particular, you know, when we have to deal with data which are a bulk of data dealing with one country which has several, I would say, sectors or several, I would say, coastal fronts. If we want to talk about Mediterranean, if we want to talk about Atlantic Sea, so these are still very difficult to make a specific regional analysis for these countries. And if I have 1 minute more, I will say that what are the steps, or I can do it later. I don't know. It's up to you. If I stop here and then we.
No, please go ahead, Francisco.
Okay. So I mean, from our side in the European Commission, we are of course keen for robust and timely data. And we are now in the process of planning a blue economy observatory. This is a work which we believe will fill these gaps which I just described. We are in a very close and joint collaboration with our research center, the GRC, the Joint Research Center, in order to put in place this observatory, Blue Economy Observatory, which will have as main priority the expansion of data collection, regularly make surveys to identify the latest trends on the emerging sectors, to conduct ad hoc market studies and businesses analysis, and of course, to develop an EU sea satellite account in order to better monitor the fast-moving development of this blue economies sector. So that's what we are currently working upon, and we hope that we might be able to announce something in the second semester of this year, 2021, and have, I would say, a pilot phase of this observatory beginning of 2022. So that's for me for now, and yes, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Francesco, and congratulations for this news of having an observatory. And of course, since the beginning, Blue Info is here to also help you and support you. And I will use this moment because you spoke about so many things that are relevant for the oceans, for data at the oceans, and of course, for the Blue Info thought leadership project, which is data access is fundamental. And we know that data costs, but we are also in a crisis. So we ask everyone that can to please, in open source mode, share their data. Otherwise, it will be much difficult to overcome these difficulties. So this is the mindset of Blue Info. I would like to share just one slide with data, which now is a positive. So in the other panel, I had the opportunity of being with the other panelists, and I showed a slide about, well, in 2020, the deepness of the crisis. But in the Berger report, we also find, as Francesco said, some emerging sectors that have data, but as he said, not many. And the fantastic news is that under a crisis, at least the wind capacity offshore is growing fast. And I will not show up that one, but if we look in terms of countries, of course, European Union and European in general countries come ahead, but China is coping with a strong run, and maybe in the 1, 2, 3 years, it will be the leading country in this industry. So, and after this sharing, which I will stop now, and also picking up on what Francesco said about satellite accounts. So we have here the representatives, I think, for the first ever satellite account in the world. And I would ask CONCEIÇÃO to well, share with us, everyone, the ones that do not know in detail what it is in the world. So please, CONCEIÇÃO, can you give us a brief information about what is the Portuguese satellite account, when was starting to be executed, what are the main outcomes of this project?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Miguel, for this invitation to be here today with all of you. Let me just start by putting in perspective what Francesco talked about the EU Green Deal, because now in Portugal we have the new National Ocean Strategy for the next decade that is much in line with this new EU Green Deal. And the satellite account started its story when we launched the last National Ocean Strategy, because at that time, in 2012, we didn't have good data to support the analysis. And at that time, the idea was Blue Gulf. So just in line with the integrated maritime policy in EU. So we decided to have a good statistical instrument to monitor the Blue Gulf at that time. So that's when the story starts. we talked with the Institute for Statistics in Portugal, but also with the forum, the economic forum that we had at that time in Portugal for the blue economy. And we all together decided to design this new statistical instrument. So it's like a vision in the national accounts for macroeconomic analysis in terms of what is the blue economy. But I think Cristina can develop more in terms of technical details, because I would like to center the importance of this instrument in what we need for public policy. So now we have a new challenge with the National Ocean Strategy. We have, of course, the satellite account, but we also have other indicators. And we have in our website something that we launched more or less 2 years ago, that is a Blue Economy Observatory, where we have information that we collect in the public administration, because the idea is to have all the people in public administration that have information about the ocean and ocean economy, and make it available. We are doing this with the Portuguese nodal of the Common Information Sharing Environment, because we have been working a lot in this context. And I think it's important to have this comprehensive idea of the data, because we have a lot of data and we need to collect once and use many times. So it's that our context. Of course, we are in a transformative process, as Peter said, and we need to rearrange information and probably trying to have other ways of make the accounts, because now we need to have information about ecosystem service and so on. But this is the main roots of our way to do the things in Portugal. And I just want to say something else, because Peter talked a lot about the hydrological cycle and the hydrosphere system and the needs we have to have better management and better information as a whole. I think Portugal and Ireland are in very good conditions to understand this, because we are in the Atlantic. We have a region where we cooperate in OSPAR in terms of maritime region, and we are European countries, and we can cooperate in Marine Strategy Framework Directive, where we have a region, a maritime region, but we also can link this with the Water Directive, where we have hydrographic region and hydrographic basin. And this is a way to manage this hydrosphere system, not in a global scale, but in a macro scale. So I think Portugal and Ireland are in a very good position to see this in a European context, in the Atlantic context, and also at a global context. And just one more thing, if I can, Miguel, is say something about monitoring efforts, because it's very, very important. In Portugal, in what respect marine data, we work mainly with IPMA, that is a state laboratory, because we need long series of data and data that is always there. Not just projects and scientific projects, and we need, of course, the universities and the knowledge, but we need very strong monitoring systems. not just in terms of economic terms, but also in terms of marine issues. This is the start to can think of methodologies to see, for example, account system, another account, but for the ecosystem services.
Thank you so much, Conceição. And now I would like to ask Ana Cristina Ramos from our National Statistic Bureau. And also, if you understand, we start with the talk of Peter, which is a vision. Then we will evolve to two fantastic interventions from Francisco and Conceição, which have the difficult task of translate all the policies around in order to design the numbers, prepare the numbers. And then we have another level, which are the statistical technicians that we have to explain where we are. And it's not difficult. And if you remind Ana Cristina Ramos, we had long discussions while the preparation of satellite account, myself only as an observer, to understand what were the borders of this concept. What were you talking about? And when Conceição said today about we are looking to the hydrologic cycle, at that time, if we had said that, it would be much difficult to get our statistical bureau on board. So we are moving. I don't know if it is fast, but we are moving on the right direction. So Ana Cristina Ramos, as a very, very competent technician on statistics, on overall economy, what do you have to say in terms of the journey already walked through and about the next steps for the future?
Thank you so much, Miguel. Good afternoon, everybody. It's an honor to be in such a panel, and also following all the other panels that are quite inspiring. I'm rather new in this ocean business, although we started in 2012. I still think I am an absolute beginner in this. So like we said, we think from what we could investigate at the time, our satellite account was the first final exercise, not an experimental exercise on ocean satellite account. And it was, since it was the first, it was not at all easy because, well, we had to collect several examples of international studies, but then we also wanted to create a statistical product that would be useful and would to several users. So we had several meetings trying to establish what was the ocean economy. It was not an easy task, above all because we also had, since a satellite account is like a Zoom international accounts, so we had to be in this frontier of the national accounts. So in this initial exercise, things like ecosystem services and natural capital were not included. Nevertheless, we thought that this project was quite interesting, quite challenging. So we thought it was a good idea to follow this project, although we were not aware of the kind of difficulties that we were going to face. And the colleague from DG Mare stated some of these difficulties. So at this time, we have two exercises for the satellite account. So we had first a pilot project from 2010 to 2013. And now we have a second, not a pilot project, already a normal project. And well, it was such a success in a way that now this is a mandatory statistical product. So Statistics Portugal has to produce this project every 3 years. We have to have data on ocean economy to the users. So, but we try to innovate in this last exercise, although we still don't have information on natural capital and ecosystem services. We try to, well, for once, establish information in regional terms for our islands. So now we have information for Azores and Madeira. And all this was only possible to, well, for once, the partnership with CONCEIÇÃO, with the Directorate General for Maritime Policy, and also with our colleagues from statistics in Azores and Madeira, our islands, that allow us to produce figures and to publish these figures in 2020. During the pandemic, with always working in a virtual at a distance, but it was possible to establish this. But besides this, we also wanted to innovate, and besides establishing the direct effects of ocean economy, also using input-output metrics is also determining the indirect effects on the Portuguese economy. So this has been more or less our progress. Thanks to this, it's not enough. We are perfectly aware of this, but we think that it's very important, at least to pass political messages to say ocean economy weighs this share of GDP. We are responsible for this part of the Portuguese growth. It's important to pass this message. It was also important to determine that the sea economy, ocean economy, at least in Portugal, it's resilient. It was resilient when in the first period that we had a major crisis in the Portuguese economy, and the ocean economy was resilient. And now when we analyze the more recent years when the Portuguese economy was growing, the ocean economy was growing even more. So it was important to prove this, and also it was important to show also the heterogeneity, sorry, but to show that there is no one ocean economy, but several ocean economies. So we have very different sectors, very different areas, and even in regional terms also, besides, in the Portuguese case, besides being islands, the characteristics of the ocean economy in Azores are different from the characteristics of ocean economy in Madeira. So this is also important, and it was also important to prove that the ocean economy in these regions, they are much more important for the national economy concerning ocean economy in the islands, that the general economy, the weight of ocean economy in the islands is bigger than the weight of the general economy of the islands in the Portuguese economy. So this is the path that we have established until now. The following steps. Well, our main idea is to improve the quality of what we are doing now, namely what the colleague from DG was stating. In Portugal, we call this these emerging sectors. We have a label like new uses and resources. We also think that we have problems with in having more information on this. We also would like to improve the information on research and development, and also the local information and local data. And we have received several questions from municipalities. Now we have municipalities that are trying to produce ocean economy, a satellite account at the local level. So this is also an issue. And now, sorry if I'm taking too much time, Miguel, but the latest development, and this is a long-term ambition, is to, until 2030, in partnership with the CONCEIÇÃO and other areas from the public administration in Portugal, to have an ecosystem account on marine ecosystems until 2030. We hope it's possible, but we still feel we have a long path until then. But it's our major ambition at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ana Cristina Ramos. Well, I'd like to share with you a little story about what you have just said, because it is fantastic that our statistical bureau, with the numbers, is now able to prove that the ocean, seas and rivers are not homogeneous when we are talking about socioeconomic dynamics. Because in the past, 20 years ago, there was the kind of feeling that the ocean, we can do in each place the same thing we can do in other places. We compare and contrast northern parts of the ocean with the central parts or other parts of the ocean. And Once when I talked in Sociedade de Geografia de Lisboa about maritime culture, the wise, experienced man told me there are not a maritime culture, there are maritime cultures. And well, when I have the opportunity 2 years ago, and now I'm creating the bridge to Jennifer, to go to the United Nations speaking about results and the numbers, I said precisely something about that, because there is the need to understand the individuality of each place and each community. And there I understood that NOAA is very, very keen on that, has a lot of experience, and has a particularity, a specificity compared with Europe and other places, that the NOAA that is related to ocean, to how the weather is on the Department of Commerce of the country. That is linking the Department of Commerce, or the Minister of Economy, I would say, with the ocean ecosystem and hydrography is what is going on since ever in the United States. So we are much happy to have Jennifer here, which combines the statistical experience and also a satellite account that the US has recently published. So Jennifer, can you share with us the US experience on this?
Sure, thanks, Miguel. First, I want to say that I fully agree with what Peter and Cisco mentioned, that the ocean satellite account is very important, because if we without a data, we could not manage it. If we want to manage it, we have to have the baseline data to support the evidence-based decisions. So this is very important work that we are doing all. And also being an economist working on the marine and coastal economic estimation for many years, I also fully understand the difficulties and challenges Christina and CONCEIÇÃO just mentioned in the development of the marine economy satellite account. And I'm going to give everyone a brief introduction of the US marine economy satellite account. Since I've been working with it since the start of the project. The goal of the project is to provide the US a most accurate and comprehensive view of industries that ties to the US ocean and Great Lakes. The time series data could help us to monitor trends of the marine economy and highlight the emerging industries, which is important, especially in the context of today's rapidly changing world. It also helps to deepen the public understanding of the valuable ocean and the coastal natural resources, and helps policymakers to identify the vulnerable industries and develop target programs. We also aim to provide information and indicators for business and industry advocates to make investments and hiring decisions to sustainably grow the blue economy into the future. So this MISA project, MISA is short for the Marine Economy Satellite Account. The MISA project is a result of a successful interagency collaboration between NOAA and the US Bureau of Economic Analysis. Like what Miguel just mentioned, that NOAA, the Bureau of Economic Analysis, are both under Department of Commerce. So it's an interagency collaboration on this satellite account project. And this is built on decades of work to define and measure the US marine economy. I would also like to note that this work has been performed in consultant with other nations, which are measuring the marine economy, like Portugal, Ireland, OECD, and other nations that are working on the same kind of estimates right now. Since the first step of the development of the statistics to define the geographic and industry scope. For US, it's a little bit complex because we have a dynamic coastlines. So right now we define the marine dependent activities that are the ones that takes place in the marine environment or would not take place if not located proximity to the coast. And as for the water bodies, we not only include the EEZs, but also Great Lakes, Gulf of Mexico, and also inland waters that lead into international shipping terminals like Portland. We also include the activities that either use essential inputs from the marine environment or produces goods and services predominantly for use in the marine environment, no matter how far it is from the coast. One advantage we have is a powerful national account framework that the used to provide other core economic statistics like GDP for the nation. Its input and output model simulates the interdependencies of more than 5,000 goods and services. And from all these 5,000 goods and services, we identified about 1,000 items that are either fully or partially dependent on the marine resources. Another advantage of this work is that we estimate that we develop the coefficients, which is also called partials, to measure the marine related portions of these partially marine dependent activities. We have consulted with more than 30 experts from industries, academic institutes, and statistical agencies, and used the dozens of government and private sector data sources for the partial development. And all these activities are organized into 10 sectors and about 60 industry groups. The 10 sectors are fisheries and other bioproducts, research and education, professional and business services, marine construction, national defense and public administration, offshore minerals, marine transportation, ship and boat building, and tourism, recreation, and coastal utilities. So we just released our first official account this June 8th. And this provides the national level GDP, gross output, employment, and compensation data for the marine industries from 2014 to 2019. And the results show that in terms of GDP, the US marine economy accounted for about 1.9% of the national economy, and which is $397 billion. And it grew by 4.2% from 2018 to 2019, which is faster than the 2.2% of the US average growth. So I could say that the marine economy is one of the drivers of the US economy. And the marine economy supported about 2.4 million jobs in 2019. So we are aiming to update this account on an annual basis, and we are constantly refining the account with the new industries identified, more accurate input data available, or more advanced measures from industrial and domestic and the international practice. And we are also working on the regional accounts, which provide statistics by states, and also exploring the possibility of linking the satellite accounts with the ecosystem services accounting.
Thank you so
and
much.
I think that's...
Thank you so much. I am amazed of what you said overall, and also that you said that you are going to update on an annual basis the satellite account. So that is strong. That is strong to say. Thank you for that. Welcome aboard, US. This is pushing everyone fast. And with this, Peter, I think we could challenge you as a man of the mission and of the philosophy of the ocean also. And I don't know if you remember when we were at Dublin Castle, and at the time that was very difficult to find someone with a single number of what is the economy of the sea about. And what is your first comment about this round of messages? And also you are here for about 30 years of experience or more. So what do you have to say? Because I think in one decade, at least the men and women of the numbers took the responsibility and took it to a higher level.
Yeah, first of all, I want to compliment very sincerely the fantastic achievements of all of the colleagues in tackling what are very challenging areas to get these satellite informations, to get the information on emerging sectors, to overcome the blind spots that were traditionally in national statistics gathering. And I love the idea of being able to understand the nuances of regionalization, localization, because it's really, really incredibly important that global issues can be understood at a local level, and what it means to people locally on the future challenges. And I know from 15 years ago, we started to invest in a Centre of Excellence in the University in Galway to help gather these statistics. And it's great to see the growth of their information. But I can also say that without it, it would have been impossible for me to convince the Irish government in 2011 and 12 to establish a very integrated approach to policy and programming on the marine in Ireland. And Miguel, you were there at the very first conference reporting on that. But year on year, since then, we were able to report annually with a very authoritative and highly accepted economic picture. And the economic target, which was one of three for the policy in Ireland, was to double the size of the economy by 2030. And I'm happy to say that when I retired in 2019, we were, I think, 95% there already, pre-COVID. But it was the most important single documentary report to government about marine policy, in my experience, over that decade, because it spoke to them in a language that they were very used to, rather than a very detailed sectoral language. Equally, in the context of the Green Deal, and I absolutely agree that the Green Deal is the overarching policy framework, very welcome and transformative in Europe. But I will say confidently that the ambitions of the Green Deal will not be achieved without the implementation of Starfish mission and the ambition that is in it. But on the positive side, the implementation of a Starfish mission will make a phenomenal contribution to not only the Green Deal, but many other economic activities, both in the areas of emerging sectors like wind and biotechnology, which will be very material at a localized level, but also in the context of decarbonizing areas like shipping and ports and tourism, but then understanding the phenomenal importance of areas such as the very, if you like, to a hydrographer, boring, featureless muds of the deep ocean. But recent studies have shown that they sequester on average twice as much carbon as terrestrial soil, and in the coast several times more. So you end up with areas like mangroves and seagrasses, just as like peatland bogs. These are super sequesters. And it's incredibly important that we develop our scientific, economic and social and our statistics gathering to reflect that accurately, to develop new methodologies to reflect the importance of such resources and the protection of them in our overall effort to deal with climate change and to grow a carbon neutral economy.
Thank you so much, Peter, for your comment. We are we have some more minutes, and I would like to use, because this has been so interesting, I would like to ask one question. I would be a final question to each one of you. So for a brief comment for everyone to have the opportunity to speak. But before that, just to say that at the end of, in the last panels of the Blue Info Summit, we'll have a participation from Brazil. And Brazil also is catching up fast on the blue numbers, particularly on the Northeast. There are some industrial associations that they have their own big data bureaus, and that is a thing. Big data will come for also to help. And with this, I would like to ask you, what do you foresee for the next steps in terms of methodology or use of artificial intelligence, other ways to help us to go to the detail we need and to the timely we also need, because none of yet reports show us what happened in 2020, and we need to know the details. And also, as you know, before pandemic, we had a mix of blue economy that maybe in the future, it will be a different mix of blue economy. So your 1 or 2 minutes for each one of you just to say some words on this, starting with Francesco.
Thank you, Miguel. Many thanks for the question. And just to say that I fully agree with what Peter said. I mean, research and innovation will be the pillar for succeeding and having the objectives of the Green Deal achieved. Now, the future and how I see it, I would like to underline what Anna and CONCEIÇÃO said, and also Jennifer, about the ecosystem services and to be able to measure them, but not in order to get a grasp how good are for us, for the services they are providing, in order to explore them more, but how we can measure them in order to mitigate all the impacts of climate change and whatever. I mean, we get from the benefits we get from these ecosystem services. I would say this is in order to understand exactly, in order to protect the ecosystem, not to exploit more. That's the idea which I would like to pass. Now, as I said, methodologies. It's true. We tried in this year's report to have comparison with the US blue economy. I don't know if, Jennifer, you have the chance to go through our blue economy report. And we, of course, noticed that there are differences in methodologies. Not so big, but some difference. So that's something which we have to work about methodologies. I also mentioned that. And I also trying we're trying to identify also the split, as I said, between coastal activities, in particular for member states, for countries which they do have, different sea basins and things like that. So this is something which we're working together with our experts in GRC. Also, I would like also to say that, the Blue Economy Observatory will have as an objective this, let's say, future developments, how this methodology can be improved, and how technology can be used in order to get better data. Artificial intelligence, I will say yes, it's the path for the future. You also mentioned, Miguel, that in 2020 we didn't have a lot of information about the COVID, the impact of COVID. Let me tell you that we do manage to have some analysis and forecasting for the living resources, which is fisheries, aquaculture, and processing, in our report, where we have made an nowcast for this. And we do see that these three sectors, they were hit heavily, but quite resilient. So this is a message also for which we are getting. And of course, we develop our analysis in order to see, in particular, what are the impacts of the crisis in 2020. In our report, we have made a brief analysis on the different sectors and the impact of the COVID. If our audience wants to see what we have done there, please go to our report. So yeah, all these subjects are the main, let's say, I would say that it's our thoughts, it's our food on the table, which we need to go forward and to analyze. Thank you very much.
Conceição. You have your mic off.
Sorry. I think in next coming years, we will have a big challenge with data, namely in terms of the ocean. And in that context, big data and artificial intelligence will be very, very important, because we are seeing much and much more technology in the ocean, more and more data, including the ocean observation from the atmosphere and from the space. So to have big data and artificial intelligence and new methodologies are very important, including for the ecosystem services analysis. Because for economic data, we are looking for country, regional or local information. But for the ocean, the information are very attached for the ecosystem. And for that, I think it will be very, very important to have new methodologies to analyze and to combine all the information. I think it will be one of the biggest challenge for the next years.
Thank you, Conceição. Ana-Cristina Ramos, could you add some comments?
Okay. Hello again. Well, it's not an easy question concerning satellite accounts, because the way we are doing now our satellite accounts, it's a rather heavy project, and this we think of it as in a structural perspective. But we are aware that more and more we have much more demanding users, namely on detail and now on having updated information. And we are aware that possibly we are going to suffer like a spillover effect from other areas in statistics, namely environmental statistics, because there was already a huge pressure on having more updated information. And now with the COVID situation, it was possible to see that, namely on the more economical area, you had very detailed and recent updated data, and on environment it was not that updated, so we had to use proxy data in order to answer to the questions of the users. And I think possibly this area will also suffer something like this due to the pressure. So namely on ecosystem accounts, Eurostat is more and more interested in this area, and there's a task force has been created in order to produce guidelines for the countries. So I think that possibly we'll have this sort of guidelines, not only on this kind of projects, but also for other projects, in order to have more up-to-date information. At this moment, I cannot provide you any more detail concerning our plans, but we are expecting to have more.
Thank you so much, Ana-Cristina Ramos. But it is very good news that also on the environment side there is progression, and I think it will be easy to create that bridge in between the blue data and the environmental data. And to close, Jennifer, some words I would say, because time is tough, on your views on this.
Yeah, in terms of the changes, there are changes due to the external stressors. For example, coastal disasters like hurricane, the outbreak, global events like pandemic, or slow but game-changing events like climate change. All this make changes in the way that we do business. And due to these changes, for example, due to the pandemic, people might less likely to stay in hotels, but rent individual properties like Airbnb. Are we going to have a good way to capture all these activities in our account? And due to the climate change, if we are thinking about the sustainable management, we will need to not only capture the flow, the value of the flow of the market activities, but also the natural capital assets, the value of the assets. So we need to have the ecosystem services accounting, and also to capture the changes in the coastal communities. We not only need to have the statistic by industries, but we also need to deeper into the business level, like how many percent of the businesses are small businesses, how many percent of the businesses are under extreme vulnerability of the coastal hazards, and also are these businesses in the underserved communities. So these are the equity information that we need to think about, how we can show them in our statistics. So there are a lot of things we need to work on, and also I think one to close with it, I think our practice also push the national economic accounting framework to move forward, for example, to include new activities and to more explicitly identify the activities within the sectors. So
thank you so much.
I think that's
Jennifer.
one of the
This message you just said is very, very important. You are saying that the blue numbers are changing for better the very, very big machine, which is the production of national accounts. So we are very, very happy with that. And for sure, this is a positive externality. It was not our intention to change the national accounts. We only need the numbers to progress. So thank you very much all, Francesco, Conceição, Anna, Jennifer, and of course, Peter. I hope you felt comfortable with this experience of putting together the philosophical thinking on the blue with the concrete of the numbers and the coldness of the numbers. Some information. The next panels will be in Portuguese language, but there is translation. If you enter in the site in the English language, it is in Portuguese language, but it is about the world. So continents like Africa will have their say. Continents like America, and particular South America, Brazil, and the Spanish-speaking countries also have their say. So please stay tuned. And if you do not understand Portuguese, please change to the English translation part. And we will close this summit at about 21:30 Portuguese time with IOC again, and with Craig McLean and Ariel, president of IOC. So please, if you have the time to pass by, do that. So thank you so much for your presence here.
Obrigado, Miguel.
Thank you.
Thank you.